All right, everyone. Well, good morning, and thank you all for joining us for another edition of the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation's monthly economic briefing. My name is Shane Cullen. I oversee events at LAEDC, and as always, I will be your moderator this morning. Today, we are, of course, joined by the LAEDC CEO, Bill Allen, as well as the director of the LAEDC's Institute for Applied Economics, Shannon Sedgwick. I'd now like to introduce Bill Allen.
Thank you, Shane, and welcome everybody. Hope you're all staying healthy and safe. This is, after all, first of all, a health crisis that has created the economic challenges that we are all facing, and so it's important that we all do our part to continue to slow the spread of this virus, and I'll talk more about that this morning. The news that my colleague Shannon Sedgwick will share with you this morning is mixed. We saw some 85,000 additional jobs added to civilian employment in August over July, and a reduction in unemployment of 87,000 here in LA County. But we still have 795,000 of our neighbors unemployed here in LA County. And that is creating significant strains not only on them as individuals, but on their families, on their communities, on our economy, and on our local governments, who are being called upon as never before to provide relief capital, relief services each and every day to an unprecedented number of neighbors of ours who are in dire need. We are expecting some more troubling news in weeks ahead, based on the fact that Congress does not appear likely to act before the election in November on additional rounds of stimulus. PPP loan program dollars will likely be running out for most businesses who were able to access that source of capital. That will put further strain on many of those businesses, and I believe more than $15 billion was allocated to businesses back in the springtime here in LA County. So as those dollars run out, we may see some more layoffs in those companies. In fact, in this last month, we saw a significant number of additional layoffs in the leisure and hospitality sector. There'll be some information this morning from a recent Yelp survey that shows, I believe, that LA as a metro area ranks first in the nation in business closures, which is troubling. We are, though, the most populous county. We are the second largest metropolitan statistical area, and if I understand correctly, the information that Shannon will share with you, ranking number one among MSAs in business closures is in fact troubling. And we'll want to redouble all of our efforts in the region to address that. We simply must keep more businesses and more sectors open. The jobs that are being lost because businesses are unable to maintain their employees. We have some of the strictest public health orders in the nation here in LA County. And that's because we've had some of the most significant numbers of COVID cases, COVID hospitalizations, and COVID deaths here in LA County. Good news is the county will announce a new Safer at Work program that we've been developing with them, because we and the county believe fervently that we must keep workers, patrons, customers, the general public safer in the workplace. When we all went home in the springtime to be safer at home, we slowed the spread of the virus significantly. When we reopened in late May and June, we reopened relatively quickly because we had confidence that business owners and the general public would do their part to keep people safer in the work environment. And for a variety of reasons, that did not pan out the way we had all hoped. So now the county has spent a great deal of time, the public health department, giving guidelines to industries. Industries and individual employers have done a tremendous amount of work developing their own guidelines. Many of these have been done in labor management partnerships, such as in the entertainment industry. Others have been done by leaders within those industries who've developed guidelines that have been adopted by others. But there is general agreement between the public and private sector on what we need to do to keep our workplaces safe. What we now need to do, all of you on this call who are our partners, our ambassadors in economic development for Los Angeles County, is really emphasize this culture of being safer at work here across LA County. So look for the announcement tomorrow from the county. Look for information coming from us in the form of a real 360 marketing campaign that will try and create a culture of safety at work to sustain us through the fall. The county is allocating some CARES Act funding to us to support this campaign, and we'll be using a lot of partners, many of whom are already on this call, many of whom will be invited in the coming days and weeks to help us spread this message, this ethic, and the specifics about how we can all be safer at work. Because if we can keep the doors of our businesses open, and the county does intend to reopen a significant number of businesses in October, pending the numbers that come in on the virus in the coming days and weeks. We need to keep those businesses open. And there may be a greater challenge given the flu season coming, along with the still presence of this very threatening virus in our community. But if we can keep these businesses open, then we can keep people employed, we can keep the tax dollars flowing to our government, and we can give ourselves a fighting chance at a fuller recovery in the new year as more of the therapeutics and vaccines begin to come online. So with that context, I'm going to ask Shannon, as she does for us now each month, to share with us the latest numbers on what is happening in our economy as a result of the course of this pandemic and the public health department's efforts to battle it by keeping some areas of our economy operating in some restricted fashions and others closed altogether. And then I think we may have some questions from some of you. I'll have some more updates for you on some of the great work the county is doing to push capital to those who most need it in our region. But first, let's hear some good news, but also some mixed news from Shannon. Shannon, I will turn the platform over to you, and then we'll both address some questions after your presentation.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the LAEDC for today's monthly economic briefing. I hope you and your families are continuing to keep healthy and to social distance and wear your masks as we continue to make our way through the coronavirus pandemic. The middle of September marked 6 months that we've been dealing with the COVID-19 health crisis. For 6 months, our way of life, our business as usual has been disrupted. And while some normalcy has been phased in along with the reopening process, we're still experiencing high levels of unemployment with a very significant number of people without jobs. Some businesses have been among the casualties of the pandemic as the health crisis shut down or severely decreased revenues, and the secondary effects related to mandated closures and restrictions for doing business are becoming visible. Today, I'm going to go over the latest local area employment situation in LA County, and we're going to take a few minutes to look at business closures. California's blueprint for a safer economy was issued on August 28th by the governor, and Los Angeles County followed with their updated Safer at Work order, detailing the latest in the opening of more businesses and activities as the pandemic persists. Risk-based criteria dictate the tightening and loosening of allowable activities, and the blueprint expands the length of time between those changes to evaluate how movement is impacting the trajectory of the disease. As of September 15th, LA County is still classified as Tier 1 when the higher risk of community disease transmission is considered widespread. And as such, capacity restrictions are more severe than in lower risk counties classified in tiers 2 through 4. And many non-essential indoor business operations are closed, with movie theaters, places of worship, gyms, and fitness centers and restaurants, to name a few, restricted to operating outside. Bars that don't serve food are still closed, as are concert venues, convention centers, tattoo parlors, and theme parks. Professional sports have no live audiences, and offices are encouraged to stay remote while in Tier 1. Before we move on to jobs and businesses, let's take a look at where we stand with the COVID-19 cases in Los Angeles County. As of Sunday, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health reported that we are reaching towards 261,000 positive cases of COVID across LA County, with close to 6,400 deaths. There's currently 765 hospitalized, of which 30% are in the ICU. At 92% of the people who have died from COVID have had underlying health conditions. It's been pretty consistent, that percentage, but a significant number of deaths have occurred in people without a reported underlying health condition. Out of the total deaths reported in LA County, nearly 480 have occurred among people without known underlying health conditions. These numbers remind us all why wearing a mask is so important, especially as flu season is just around the corner. Social distancing, frequent hand washing, and masks are still recommended by the state and county to continue to slow the spread of the virus. When it comes to new daily cases, our numbers have been trending downward since we experienced a spike in new cases in July when we tried to open the first time. As of Friday, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health confirmed 651 new cases of COVID-19, and residents between the ages of 30 and 49 years old continue to have the highest number of new daily cases among all age groups in LA County. The county has to meet several indicators established by the state which determine the LA County's progress in slowing the spread of COVID-19 and their reopening approach. And these indicators, which include test positivity and case rate adjusted according to test volume, they help assign the county in one of those 4 tiers, each with an established reopening framework. Currently, the only measure not being met in LA County is testing. The target is an average of at least 15,000 tests done each day over the past 7 days. And over the last week, the average was just under 11,000. According to the latest data, the California Employment Development Department has processed nearly 10.7 million claims since the pandemic began in mid-March. This includes standard claims, those filed through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance or PUA program, reopened, and extension claims. And claims processed over the last 6 months are more than triple the 3.8 million claims processed in 2010, which was the worst full year of the Great Recession. We look to unemployment filings early on in the pandemic as they're a timely proxy for what may come to pass in the labor market. The rapid pace of what was occurring with COVID-19 meant monthly and quarterly data was too lagged to provide much sought after information on what might be happening to our economy in real time. However, UI claims data, it was never meant to be a true indicator. And the processing backlogs, the non-unique claimants, and recent suspicion of fraud in the PAU filings are examples of their potential unreliability. The California EDD reported a strong suspicion of fraud stemming from a recent uptick in suspicious PUA claims in the state. Between mid-August and the first week of September, PUA applications doubled to more than 524,000. In response, the EDD shut down automatic backdating in the program, and PUA applications dropped abruptly by more than 72% to just under 146,000 PUA applications. And that's for the week ending September 12th. That's 1 week. It's likely the recent increase in UI claims, mainly the PUA program, doesn't really reflect a real world increase in the rate of joblessness in this instance. Also, the additional $300 to $600 in federal pandemic unemployment compensation, as you note, ended July 25th. And starting in September 7th, some of those UI claimants began receiving $300 in additional benefit payments for the period of July 26th through August 29th through the Federal Lost Wages Assistance or LWA program. Unfortunately, a claimant must have a minimum weekly benefit award of $100 or more, meaning that those earning the least through unemployment are not eligible. Friday, new employment data for LA County was released covering the month of August. Here we have the monthly unemployment rate in Los Angeles County throughout the pandemic. Payroll employment was hit hardest in April and May, with the unemployment rate reaching over 20% each month. Since then, the employment situation has continued to improve in the county, with August's unemployment rate falling to 16.1% from 17.9% the month before. Civilian unemployment increased by 85,000 over the month, reaching over 4.1 million in August 2020, while unemployment decreased by 87,000 to 795,000 people who are unemployed. August is the third consecutive month the change in the LA County's unemployment rate was positive. It fell by 1.8 percentage points from July, though it's still 11.8 percentage points higher than August of last year. If we look at the trend of LA County's unemployment rate over the last, well, since before the recession, we see that the county's rate typically runs higher than the state, and it typically runs higher than the national average as well. LA County's unemployment rate was 7.7 percentage points higher than the US rate, and 4.7 percentage points higher than California rate in August. And though the statewide rate has now dipped below the highest rate experienced in the Great Recession, which was 12.3 in October of 2010, the LA County rate is still 3.5 percentage points higher than its October 2010 peak of 12.6%. From July to August, non-farm employment in Los Angeles County declined by 11,500 jobs, but job growth was mixed across the industries. An increase of 18,100 jobs in government payrolls that led month over industry employment with seasonal, it's due to seasonal increases in education. And 7,600 jobs were added in retail trade. And those gains were felt across every retail industry subsector except for clothing and clothing accessory stores, and they were down by 1,300 jobs. Arts and entertainment and recreation, they dropped by 8,400 jobs, mostly in amusement, gambling, and recreation. That they were down by 7,700 in that particular subsector. And food services reported a reduction of 3,400 jobs. Once again, while the August, month over month report showed positive changes from the prior month, so August showed a mixed performance from July, we again see that year over year, employment in the county is still down significantly. Non-farm employment has fallen by almost 444,000 jobs year over year. It's a decline of almost 10%, 9.8%. And leisure and hospitality accounted for 40% of that year over non-farm employment contraction, with a reduction of over 176,000 jobs. So 79% of the establishment that lost jobs were in accommodation and food services, primarily in food services and drinking places, which are bars. And that particular group was down by almost 116,000 jobs year over year. One of the questions we often are asked now is whether we have information of the number of businesses that are closing as a result of the measures taken during the pandemic. Businesses of all sizes and across all industries have been impacted by the coronavirus, whether it be from disrupted global supply chains, mandated closures, changed modes of business, or even sick employees. It's been a trying time for businesses. They've had to adapt and pivot in order to survive in a period with this much uncertainty. And many are finding ways of doing their business online or bringing their operation outdoors. But not all have proved to be so resilient during the COVID-19 crisis. Many have had to close their doors either temporarily or for good. Yelp collects business closure data across the nation. Close to 164,000 total US businesses on Yelp have closed across the US from March 1st to August 31st, with a 23% increase in the number of closures since July. Both permanent and temporary closures are on the rise, with 60%, or roughly 98,000, of those closed businesses reported as permanently closed. From the beginning, we have identified professional services and healthcare as two industries that were at lower risk for job loss. And Yelp data supports this assertion. Businesses in these sectors have a low rate of closures. Between March 1st and August 31st, lawyers, real estate agents, architects, and accountants reported between 2 to 3 closures for every 1,000 businesses closed. And orthopedists, internal medicine, hospitals, physicians, family doctors, and OBGYNs all have less than 3 closures out of every 1,000 businesses closed. Restaurants and retail stores are on the other end with close to 57 breakfast and brunch places and just over 39 gift shops closed for every 1,000 businesses closed. The restaurant industry has had over 32,000 closures over the period, with close to 20% or 61% being permanent. Delivery and takeout has been able to keep closure rates lower than other restaurants, especially for pizza places, delis, food trucks, bakeries, and coffee shops. Bars and nightlife, so your clubs, have experienced an especially high closure rate as well, with that closure rate increasing by, it's an increasing percentage of closures being permanent within that subsector. Retail and shopping follow closely behind restaurants with a large number of closures. Well over 30,000 total businesses closed their doors, and 58% of those are permanent closures. In retail clothing stores and home decor, they have the highest rate of business closures. The share of permanent closures for bars and nightlife and retail and shopping have both increased. So the rate of closures, the number of closures have been increasing since July. The beauty industry has seen well over 16,000 total closures, with just over 7,000 or 42% being permanent. And that's a significant 43% increase in the number of closures in the beauty industry since July, when it was reported that close to 5,000 were permanent. The fitness industry's endured a 23% increase in closures since July. There's 6,000 total closures, 2,600 of which were estimated to be permanently closed. So business closures vary across geographic areas as well. Metro areas with higher rents and those that are imposing stricter guidelines throughout the last 6 months, like Los Angeles, they experience more closures. And indeed, Los Angeles has the highest number of closures from March 1st through August 31st of any metro area across the nation. LA's large tourism industry also requires crowds of consumers visiting local attractions and landmarks in order to remain profitable. So the inability for tourists to do so has resulted in more closures in that industry. At the state level, California has the highest number of business closures in the nation, as it's home to some of the hardest hit metro areas, including San Diego, San Francisco, San Jose, and Los Angeles. All are ranked among the highest for total closures and permanent closure rates. Before we take questions, I just wanted to share that without a vaccine or ample therapeutic drugs, the public health emergency will continue, along with the negative effects it has on the economy. Economic recovery is about continuing to be safe, to avoid the spread of the virus, and to give businesses a chance to get back on their feet without pulling the rug out from under them with future mandated closures that will come about if our indicators that capture disease burden, testing, and health equity don't meet their targets. Recovery is about finding ways to get people back to work, to give them a fighting chance to avoid debt, pending evictions and foreclosures, from not being able to pay their rent or mortgage arrears. It's about staying 6 feet away from people not in your household and wearing a mask in public so we all get a chance to heal, mentally, physically, socially, and economically. Next, Bill and I will be taking questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shannon, for sharing such an informative presentation today. Throughout this morning and even prior, we've had several questions coming in that were both pre-submitted and submitted just now about what grant or loan programs are currently or still available for small businesses here in LA County. Bill, I want to pass this one over to you to address it.
Thanks, Shane. Yeah, fortunately, the County of Los Angeles, working with the City of Los Angeles and private philanthropy, has been implementing a series of loan and grant programs over the last several months. Initially, I think, recognizing that the federal PPP program was not reaching many of the most vulnerable enterprises in Los Angeles, whether they were small businesses, micro enterprises, small community serving nonprofits. It was clear that if they didn't have a banking relationship or a credit history, they might have a difficult time securing the PPP capital. So initially, some loan programs were put together, but our business assistance team, the county's own business assistance team through their Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, heard very quickly from small business owners in the region that their capacity to take on debt, even at very low interest rates or no interest rates, was challenging for them. They had low capacity to accommodate additional debt if they had debt at all. And so they asked for grant programs. And the county and the City of Los Angeles allocated collectively $60 million from the county, $40 million from the city, a $100 million pool of CARES Act funding that they had received for a variety of purposes. They've allocated $100 million. And after issuing a few rounds in partnership with LISC LA of a few $1 million and really vetting their system for doing this, they launched a round, I think it was August 31, that they call round 4 of their grant making, but it was really the first round of this new $100 million pool of capital. In that first round, which was open for a couple of weeks, they had over 25,000 applications from all over the county, different sectors, different geographies, different sizes of enterprises. They selected 1,112 finalists for the program, and they are currently vetting those finalists to be able to make the awards. I believe in this first round, there'll be in excess of $8 million awarded in areas outside the City of Los Angeles, could be around $8.6 million, I believe, and about $5.6 million awarded within the City of Los Angeles, for a total of more than $14.2 million in this first round. There'll be subsequent rounds coming on October 5 and October 26. If you were one of the 25,000 businesses or small nonprofits even who applied in round 4, you don't have to fully reapply in round 5 or 6. I believe you'll be automatically reconsidered again. But if you were not aware of the opportunity and you had not yet applied, you can and should apply when the next rounds open up on October 5 and October 26. $100 million of grant capital, not loan capital. And as I alluded to in my opening remarks, it will be desperately needed in the coming weeks as federal sources are drying up. And we should also take note of the fact that the federal unemployment assistance added $600 a week program had run out, been replaced by a temporary $300 a week program. That has now run out. And so there's going to be a greater strain on individuals to be able to support the consumer economy without these additional supplementary benefits. So getting this capital to these businesses, help them get through this period, will be very, very challenging and very, very necessary.
Thank you very much, Bill. Next question that I just saw come through, Shannon, is for you. For the business closure data, question is that from Yelp? And then also, do you know if that information is available for the city of LA only?
I don't know. You're on mute.
You think I would get better about that by now. Yes, the data is from Yelp, and we are definitely going to be looking in to see if we can get access to the data ourselves. Stay tuned on that one, because right now that was available at the national level, but we're going to see if we can access it, through API. And if we do, we'll share it right away.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. We actually had another question come in that's directed towards you. Given the huge difference in closures for Los Angeles, I believe LA County is trending worse versus the rest of California and deaf versus the rest of the nation on these metrics. By any chance, do you have the figures versus the US or versus California?
So there are definitely industries that we have here that that we're performing, that we're definitely worse off in comparison. And mostly it's related to industries that are key industries here. So ones that are unique to us. So motion picture industry. It's been an industry where we've had a tremendous amount of unemployment related to that industry, and it's still working to start to get back online. And we have a huge tourism industry here that was hit, international tourism, and domestic tourism. And you had professional sports, you had all your concert venues, you have, LA County is this mega region, it's this mega area with so much that's unique about its economic base. And unfortunately, a lot of what we boast as, where the reason why everyone wants to come out here, the nightlife, all of that ended up being more susceptible. The restaurants, all of that, it just was more vulnerable to closure because they were not essential. So that was we are in that regards, feeling it worse. If you want specific numbers, it's also great to send in your questions, because if you want specific numbers, you can ask and we can get back to you with those. So if there's something that you're looking for, a specific industry or a specific comparison, be happy to get back with you on that, my team and I.
Shane, I just noticed a question I want to make sure I answer.
Yes.
Is, how can you find out where to apply for this $100 million pool and any other related programs? People should visit our laedc.org/coronavirus resource page. It's our LA Community Connectory. We have information on all of these potential grant and loan programs. Whenever they open, if they close, we'll let you know that. When they're likely to reopen, we'll let you know that. The County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, I'm not sure of the exact specific web address at the LA County DCBA department. It has the information also, but I can assure you at laedc.org/coronavirus, you will see information about these loan and grant programs available to you. And if we can get something that we can post either in the chat or afterwards, we will send it to you.
Absolutely. We'll put it in the chat, and then it'll actually be on the last slide before we end today.
Terrific.
And Bill, kind of along those same lines to what you were speaking about for grants and loans, and I'm not sure if you would know this answer, but if you were notified that your business was a finalist, does that mean you will in fact receive the grant, or will there be a further cut down from the finalist round?
I'm not sure that there's a cut down intended, but I know there's a vetting process. I know that the county has to make sure that the company is qualified before they release the funds. These are Federal CARES Act funds. They're scarce dollars. So I don't know if there's anybody from DCBA on the call who wants to answer that in the chat. They're free to do that, or any of our partners at LISC LA. I don't think the intent is to cut down the finalists who've been selected for awards. I think it's simply to vet and verify to make sure that only the businesses who really deserve the capital receive the capital, since there's so much demand for it and it can't all be met. As I mentioned, there were 25,000 applications and only 1,100 finalists in the first round. There'll be larger numbers of finalists probably in the subsequent rounds, but probably not enough capital, definitely not enough capital for all 25,000 finalists. So we want to make sure everyone is fully entitled to the funds that they have applied for before they're actually awarded.
Excellent. And we just posted in the chat some additional support information, both the LAEDC coronavirus page as well as lacovidfund.org.
Terrific.
Great resources.
I see a couple of questions that I can answer pretty quickly. So one of them is from Stacy White. It says, do you think spas and gyms will be allowed to open in October? I just mentioned the tiered system. There's 4 tiers. They will allow indoor activity with tier 3, or I'm sorry, with tier 2. I get them backwards. And tier 1 is where LA County is currently, and we've been at tier 1 for the last 2 weeks. I think you have to have 3 weeks at a tier, and you have to meet your metrics before you're allowed to move to the next tier. So assuming that we can keep the numbers of the virus and the cases in line and meet those targets and those measures enough to move to tier 2, then I know they were speculating that they would be opening gyms in October if that was the case.
And I would add, despite some political comments to the contrary, I don't believe there's anybody in our LA County government who doesn't want to see our businesses reopen. But they're, as Shannon was alluding, trying to be very careful this time, leaving some space in between each section they open, making sure they are really solidly in a new tier where it's safe to reopen. And then it's on all of us, I just want to stress again, to ensure safety, whether we're a patron of a spa or a gym, whether we're operating a spa or a gym or any other business, that we try and focus on safety so that we can keep these sectors open throughout the fall and winter. Really important, and look for the announcements about the Safer at Work campaign coming from the Board of Supervisors tomorrow, and more information from us in the coming weeks.
And one more quick one, is that okay? We had a question asking if there's unemployment data by industry per city. There are labor force data that's available at the city level. Industry employment is not available at the city level. So if you have a specific city and you want your labor force data, let us know and we can pull it for you.
Wonderful. And Bill, any closing remarks from yourself?
Really just one quick announcement. We are seeing exciting things happening in different sectors of our economy. By the way, some of our industry sectors are already back to their pre-COVID levels of employment and above. Our space manufacturing sector and other sectors, computer manufacturing, electronic parts manufacturing. There's exciting things happening in different parts of this county. We want to see everybody get back to success. And so we're going to shine a spotlight on our sustainability sector this Thursday morning. I don't know if you have a slide or anything about that, Shane, but if not, I'll just say that this Thursday morning from 8 to 9 a.m., September 24, we're having a virtual tour of LA area opportunities in sustainability. We do this with our Select LA initiative in partnership with the federal government's Select USA initiative, and so that people can see the exciting things that are going on in that sector. We're continuing to work with all of our different industry sectors that we've been invested in recent years: advanced transportation, digital media and entertainment, life sciences, and others, space commercialization and others, to try and augment the growth that's happening there so that we can create new job opportunities while we're also working to get back some of the job opportunities that have been lost in recent months. So stay in regular touch with the LAEDC, because there's exciting work going on with our economic development team, our workforce development teams, our policy teams, our foreign direct investment attraction teams. The work continues. But on top of all that, we will be looking to partner with many of you in our business, government, education, labor, and other sectors to keep everybody over the next several months safer at work, so we can get as many people as possible back to work and keep our neighbors employed throughout this fall and winter season. Let's do this together, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shannon and Bill, for both answering the questions as well as the presentations today. Getting up on the screen, the slide that does provide the additional resources. So as Bill mentioned, we do encourage everyone to visit the LAEDC COVID-19 response page for additional resources at laedc.org/coronavirus. That was also sent in the chat. As Bill mentioned, the event on Thursday morning being put on through World Trade Center Los Angeles, as well as our partners at Select USA. That registration link was also put in the chat box as well. And please save the date for our next LAEDC economic briefing on Monday, October 19th at 11 a.m. And as Shannon mentioned, if you have any additional questions or would like additional data or have your questions answered, please send them directly to us. You can email me at shane.cullen@laedc.org. That is on your screen right now. And I'll be sure to disseminate those out to our team to try and help get those answers for you. Otherwise, thank you everybody for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you once again, and we will see you next month. Stay safe and be healthy.